If you do in-home sales like selling home improvements, you know that part of the job is that sometimes you're going to get some resistance at the door. I look at these as good signs because the resistance shows that they generally don't like the idea of someone coming to their home to try and sell them something, yet they still set the appointment. To me, that shows that there's definitely an interest or I wouldn't be here. How to handle this effectively is part of the job like traffic jams and is a necessary skill if you want to maximize your income selling. One common thing you'll come across when you first start your appointment are so-called time constraints. It usually starts with, well, I only have 20 minutes, or how long is this going to take? How you handle this makes the difference between a sale and being out of the home within 10 minutes. The lead starts when the door opens. If you can't get control and do your job, then it's just the same as if you were there for 2 hours. Another no sale. Please listen to the end to hear everything. It might make the difference on your next appointment. Now, if I'm helping you make more money with these videos, then please subscribe to help me and check out the link for more free training listed in the description below. Whether it's a real concern, i.e. they're picking someone up at the airport, or just a way of getting you out of the house sooner, the initial response should be the same. Don't argue about it here. Don't say that you can't do it in that short of time. The worst thing to do is to say, well, didn't they tell you over the phone that this takes 90 minutes? What good can that possibly do? Do you think they'll say, oh, that's right, my bad, I'll give you the time? I've actually seen salespeople argue about this point so long that by the time they were done, they could have actually went through everything in that same time period instead of arguing about whether they were told it takes 90 minutes. Remember, in most cases, they're just scared that you're going to waste their time and pressure them. The funniest one was where one time in the warm-up, the customer just blurted out, well, nobody told me this takes 90 minutes. And at that time, I had not mentioned time at all. To me, the easiest and simplest response is just to say, no problem, let's just start and see how far we can get. And if I'm not done by then, you'll at least know whether I'm worth setting up another visit to finish up if you want. Okay? And get started. In most cases, I think this is just a preemptive move on their part, so I don't bore them and overstay my welcome with some drawn-out, annoying sales presentation. I can't count the number of times that they told me that they only had 20 minutes, and after I responded with, well, let's start and see how far we can get, that 2 or 3 hours later, we were writing up the paperwork. I still remember one customer that when 2 hours in, I said, now, don't you have to go pick up your sick daughter who's standing in the rain at the bus stop waiting on you? And she said, oh, she'll be fine. Know that even if they weren't planning on spending a couple hours with you, and only plan to give you 20 minutes, is that your job is to get them involved and interested enough in what you have to offer that they'll gladly spend the time with you. Not because you're forcing them to, but because they want to. I've actually had people call into work and said they were going to be late because they were so involved. Now, if they're going to do that, make sure it's a job where they won't get fired for doing that, or your financing won't get approved. There are other times where you just have to adapt. This job pays so well because it's challenging and you have to think on your feet. I actually had people tell me that they wanted an estimate on their bathroom, their kitchen, and roof and HVAC system, and could I do it in 10 minutes? One time I was in a home and we were in the kitchen with husband and wife sitting around the table, and the wife said, can we do this fast because I don't have a lot of time? And I said, well, how much time do we have? And she points to the microwave ticking down, 3 minutes, 2:59, 2:58, etc. And I said, well, that might be cutting it close. If you want, I have a customer down the street I have to see to take happy pictures of the job we just did for them. I can do that and come back in a half hour or so. That way I won't interrupt your dinner. Or if you want, I don't mind you eating while I show you what we do. What would be best for you? Salespeople always forget that there's one thing we have that the customer always wants, and it gives you leverage you may not be aware of. They want the price. That's why even if they have to go somewhere and I'm in the middle of the sales call, I sell from a position of strength. For example, I'm halfway through or something happens where they have to leave. I don't fight them. Oh, you have to leave now? Yes. Okay, well, what would you like to do? Well, Ron, we didn't get the price. Well, that's because we're still picking out colors and styles and they have different prices. Well, what do we do then? Well, that's up to you. If you have to leave now, I understand. And if you aren't that interested, I don't take it personally, and I thank you for the time you've given me, and we say goodbye. Now, if you want to finish, then tell me a good time where I can come back and we can do it then. What would you like? The point is, and I don't mean to sound rude, but it's not my problem that we have to stop, it's theirs. The key is that you shouldn't shortcut anything or rush, because you'll never make the sale and are acting like a cheap, desperate salesperson. What would a lawyer or doctor say if you were in the middle of a consultation and had to leave? Would they beg you to stay or just, okay, bye? A variation of this is when the customer says to you at the beginning, how long is this going to take? I don't have a lot of time. The response should be the same. Well, it takes as long as you want. Why don't we get started? And at any time you don't like anything or feel like I'm wasting your time, just tell me and I'll leave. The worst thing you can say is, well, it takes like 2 or 3 hours. Do you have that much time? You might as well say I'm leaving instead, because that's what the customer will tell you. That's because they can't see how getting an estimate would take a couple of hours other than you browbeating them into submission. Yet when done right, 2 hours in the home by a professional, the time flies and the customer appreciates you. I can't tell you how many sales I've had where when I asked the customer why they bought, that they said, well, because nobody took the time like you did to explain everything to me. Or, Ron, I appreciate all the time you took with us today to make sure we knew what was happening. Now, if they say, how much longer is this going to take during the sales presentation, that may be a sign that you're boring them and your sales presentation needs work. Look at it like a date. What would that mean if they say that during your date? Well, how much longer is this going to take? In-home sales is fun when you know what you're doing. If it helps, always expect the worst, but hope for the best. If you want more training on this topic, check out the video on why you get resistance in home improvement sales, or the playlist on home improvement sales closing listed above. Happy selling!